going to try that again. Hey, you know what? If first you don't succeed, try and try again, and that we will. We've got a great live for you here in stores. So thank you so much for being here. I apologize for some of the hiccups we ran into earlier. We are going to have a live chat here, and so feel free to put any messages in the chat. You do need to be logged into your Google/YouTube account in order to do that. We'll give people another minute or two to kind of get back in here. There was nearly 200 people in the last live waiting, and I'm so sorry. We had a delay in getting started, then we had some audio issues, but we're going to be resilient. We are going to be strong and we're going to be resilient. We're going to get this done. Thank you guys for your patience and your understanding. It is our first YouTube live, so we're going to give ourselves some grace with that. Appreciate you, appreciate your patience. I promise I will make it worth your while. And guys, if you showed up for that first one and the one that didn't pan out, I see Dre's here. Hello, Dre. I see that it didn't pan out, but hey, this one we're gonna record it, we're gonna post it. This one's gonna go great. Okay, it's gonna go great. It was a little bit of a practice run there, even though we did practice runs before that to make sure it worked out just fine. Here we are. You never know when the lights go on what's gonna happen. So anyway, guys, as you come in here, say hello, please. Now that I'm here from the very first start of it, I want to make sure that we get to say hello to everybody. I want to give you a shout out. Thanks for being here. Feel free to put your questions in. Again, we're going to be talking about age-related muscle loss, how important it is, how widespread it is, but not to be completely, a gray cloud over your day. I want to talk about the things we can do to combat it, mitigate it. So all those things, we're going to talk about all those things. So going to leave you with some very important tools to help combat that age-related muscle loss, which, as I'll talk about, I think is probably one of the most critical, detrimental, yet overlooked things as we age, that has this widespread effect. It's very hard to put into words, but we focus so much on some of these big problems that we have with age. I think age-related muscle loss may be the most important for a number of reasons, not only how far spread it is and how it kind of digs its roots in and affects other areas of life and of health, but because we actually have the ability to combat it and to mitigate it and to improve not only our longevity, which is how long we live, but our health span, or how well we live, which we'll get into that as well. So again, thank you guys for being here. Coach Tim from BioTRUST. Going to give a few minutes for people to come in. I apologize for the technological hiccups that we had. We first had difficulty getting the live started, and then we had some audio issues. Not much that we can do about those things, but here we are. So thank you for being here. Again, if you are in here, I'd love for you to say hello. Make sure you put your name in the chat, say hello. I see Rachel is here. Thank you very much, Rachel, for letting me know. So we're gonna take a few more minutes. So we did this great job of letting people know where to find us using an email with a link to the video, and then chaos broke loose. Couldn't predict that. Again, we practiced it to try to get ourselves in the best position possible, but with the audio issues, that one was out of our control. So we're learning, we're getting better, and that's all we can do, right? So again, thank you for being here. We're talking age-related muscle loss. You have Coach Tim from BioTRUST. Coach Cristina is here as well. She's hanging out in the chat, making sure that everyone's questions get answered, making sure that everyone's here. I'm sure she's scrambling behind the scenes to make sure that everyone who wants to be here has the link to get in. I see Jacqueline's here. Hello, Jacqueline. Thank you for saying hi. Appreciate that. Everyone, as you come on in, make sure you say hello. I'm going to give you as many shout outs as possible. I want to make this as interactive as possible as we go along. So thank you so much for being here. I see, yes, I'm here. Siddhant is here. Thank you. I apologize if I mispronounced that, but thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Catherine is here. Hello from Wisconsin. Wisconsin this time of year is probably getting pretty nice. Probably getting pretty nice up there. Good to see you, Catherine. Thank you for being here. Again, if you want to participate in the chat, which I'd love for you to do, Scott, thank you for your grace, my friend. I appreciate it. Daryl's in the house. Good to see you, Daryl. It's been a while. Thank you for being here, brother. again, appreciate everyone. If you want to participate in the chat, which I would love you to, Teresa from Texas, love it, right here with you, girl. You need to be logged into your Google, YouTube account, so please do that so we can participate. I want you to be able to ask questions. I want you to be able to give me internet high fives. And if you feel so inclined to do the internet banter, that's fine too. All those things help you be more resilient. So again, Coach Tim from BioTRUST here, and Coach Cristina in the chat, who has been amazing in helping getting this set up and been resilient, as well as my good friend Catherine. And thank you guys. I'm sure that was nothing short of an anxiety attack for you. But again, we're doing it. We're doing it. I see Terry's here. Great name, great handle there, Teriyaki. Terry from Texas, East Texas. So we've got East Texas. We got Central Texas here. I see Michelle's here. Hello, Michelle. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. And yeah, we'll maybe give another minute or so for people to come in. We had totally blew it on the last one, but we had almost 200 people showing up. And so we're trying to get as many people as we can back. I know that was inconvenient. You had to wait around for me for a little while. And then we had the audio issues where you just heard the same thing over and over again. You're going to hear my voice over and over again, but I want you to hear different things, good stuff, right? So again, today the topic of conversation is age-related muscle loss. We're going to dig in, and Papadou, hey, there you go, from Chicago. All right, Papadou, I grew up in the Chicago area on the other side of the lake, Northwest Indiana. So very familiar. I actually headed back up there this summer with the family for a little beach trip. So glad you're here, Papadou. Thank you for your encouragement. Thanks for staying strong. So many of you guys, I haven't had the chance to meet in person, but you're so encouraging. You're so supportive. Appreciate that so much. Thank you for your patience, for being here. Don, I see you from Atlanta. All right, Don's here. Yep, that's right, Scott. First one, it's only going to get better from here. We're learning. Okay, shall we dig in? Age-related muscle. All right. So as a reminder, Coach Tim from BioTRUST Nutrition here live with Coach Cristina in the chat, who's helping make sure that we get all the messages. And again, this is going to be, and I see Siddhant's from India. A lot of good friends from India, Siddhant. So thank you for being here. It is, if you're in India right now, I don't know if you are, but it's, at 1 a.m.-ish? Something like that. So thanks for staying up late with me. I will make it worth your while, I promise. I'll make it worth everyone's while. This will be published, so you can go back and you can check it out in case you can't stay the whole time. And you can come back at a later time, or if you want to share it, for some of those people who wouldn't be able to come back for it. Okay, so age-related muscle loss. So if you ask me, arguably the most overlooked yet most important thing that we need to pay attention to as we get older is age-related muscle loss. I don't think that there's anything more detrimental, more widespread than age-related muscle loss. And I know that's a bold statement, but my goal with this time together is to shine this light on this issue, which I think some people are aware of, but maybe don't understand its prevalence and how deep it digs its roots into various areas of our lives, and just how important it is and how critical it is. And most importantly, probably what I want you to come away with is how much control you actually have over it, okay? So that's some things that I want to get into. But again, I want to reiterate that I personally feel like age-related muscle loss is the most critical issue of our time. I know there's some other things that we need to be worried about in terms of health issues, but I really think that age-related muscle loss is an underpinning factor in many, many cases. So Coach Cristina, thank you for sharing the questions. I think we can get into some questions throughout the time here together, but we might save some for towards the end, so we can kind of get through some just general information here on age-related muscle mass, age-related muscle loss, what it is, how we can combat it, things like that first, and then maybe we get into some questions if that sounds good. Sound good, guys? But feel free to drop them in there, and we'll take as many as we possibly can throughout our time together. Okay. So to kind of put some context around it. Hey Donna, good to see you from Missouri. The amount of muscle mass that we have peaks sometime in the range of age 25 to 30. That's when we reach our peak muscle mass, generally speaking. And around the age of 30, we start to lose muscle each year at around, on average, about 0.8% per year, which averages out to about 8% per decade. And that rate accelerates and gets faster, gets higher once we get into our 70s, where it actually doubles. That rate doubles to about 15%. So you're losing somewhere around 8 to 15% of your muscle mass each decade, starting around the age of 30. That can be kind of silent, right? It's not necessarily something that you notice right away. And that's why I want to really, really shine the light on this, is because it happens pretty early and happens consistently over time. And the sooner we can do something to fight back, the better off we're going to be. Okay, so understanding that, like, to kind of put it in perspective, what that means when you're 80 is that, hey Maria, thank you for being here, and thank you for your patience. When you're 80, you have about 40% less muscle mass than you did when you're 25. All right. Hey Brian, good to see you. Just getting started. Just got the new link. Thank you for being here. Thanks for letting me know. I know there's gonna be some more people trickling in here. We're just getting started talking about age-related muscle loss. I'll hit on some of the statistics that I already talked about, and I'll just keep hammering that I think it's probably one of the most critical yet overlooked health concerns for me as we get older, for a number of reasons. And my whole goal today is to shine the light on why I think that that's important, a very bright, compelling light on why I think age-related muscle loss is the most critical issue of our time. It starts in our 30s, somewhere around, we're losing around 0.8% of our muscle mass each year in our starting in our 30s, which averages out to about 8% per decade. Just a big number, but it's not that perceptible, right? It's not that perceptible. So it takes some time for these things to manifest. And we'll get in what does that actually look like in just a moment. But as I was saying, that rate accelerates as we get older. So, hey Megan, good to see you here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your support. Appreciate it very much. You guys are awesome. Love you guys. Love being live because you guys are so supportive. And just let's keep those trolls out. No, trolls aren't bad. They help us keep our focus. So talking a little bit about age-related muscle loss, I see Catherine is here. Thank you, Catherine, for being here. Thank you for your patience. We got it. We're doing it. It's only going to get better from here. Debbie's here. Hey, you're back. I'm back. We're all back. Chrissy's here. Hey. They're piling in. I love it. Thank you guys for being here. Just getting started talking about age-related muscle loss. And yeah, you're welcome, Maria. It's my pleasure. Again, you guys are amazing. So age-related muscle loss, why I strongly believe that it's certainly one of the most overlooked, but one of the most detrimental issues of our time, how far spread it is, how it digs its roots into so many areas of our lives. Hey Ryan, good to see you. Bonnie is here. Thank you so much. Interesting. We can talk a little bit about that, Bonnie. Talk a little bit about that. Thank you for being here, by the way. And basically, we have this rate of age-related muscle decline, about 8% each decade once we hit the age of 30. And that compounds over time. And I give the example of when we're 80, hello Melinda, when we're 80, we have about 40% less muscle mass than when we were 25. That's a huge difference. And again, that adds up over time. And one of the reasons I want to shine the light on it is because many of us are not in our 80s yet. We're still 30s, 40s, 50s. So we have time to combat this issue. And that's what I want to really shine a light on today, is the fact that we have some control over this. And that's why I think it's so important. There's many things that we don't have control over. This is one area that we can combat, not necessarily completely prevent, but certainly combat and mitigate the losses. Okay, so we're going to talk a lot about that today. What I also want to highlight here is that while this rate of muscle loss is important, what we also lose is strength. And we actually lose strength at a rate 2 to 3 times faster than we lose muscle. So if we're losing muscle at 8% each year, we're losing strength at 1.5% each year. That's going to have big impacts on physical function. and a variety of other things that we're going to get to in a moment as well. I see Claudia's here. Hey, Claudia, good to see you. Angel's here. Thank you guys for being here again. Guys, I appreciate you guys. You're so resilient. Maria, we see your question. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. Yeah, it is terrible. So going back, strength loss, muscle loss, 8% each decade. Strength loss, 15% each decade. We lose 15% each decade. It only gets a little bit worse as we lose power, which is a function of strength times speed. We lose power at a rate of 2 to 3 times faster than strength because of the speed component getting cut. And this all comes back to the type of muscle fibers that we lose. We lose more fast twitch fibers. You don't use it, you lose it as we get older, okay? So we're losing muscle at a rate of 8% each decade. We're losing strength at a rate of 15% each decade. We're losing power somewhere in the neighborhood of 30% each. This is really getting, it does sound a little grim, I know. But again, I want to be the bearer of hope here as well, and we're going to get to how we combat this. What are the tools in our toolbox on how we combat this? But I want to shine the light on that. And so why is all this important? Many of you people here aren't trying to be, bodybuilders or anything like that. That's not the goal here. We're just trying to be healthy. We're trying to not just live longevity, which I'm going to talk about that in just a moment, but we're going to live better. We're going to live well. I see Brandon's here. What's up, Brandon? Good to have you here, buddy. So we have this longevity, how long you live, and then we have this thing called health span, which is how well you live. So the idea of health span is it's not just about the number of years in your life, but the life in your years. So we don't want to just live longer. We want to live longer, right? So that's where the health span piece comes into play. Now I want to tie this all back. And so, people might think that aerobic fitness is related to longevity and health span. It certainly is, but there's been a number of studies, including one study that involved over 10,000. I'm gonna read from my notes here because this is so important. I don't want to be botch this at all. So one large 10-year observational study found that participants with low muscle mass were at a 40 to 50% greater risk of death from all causes during that 10-year study period. What makes matters worse was that low muscle strength doubled the risk of death. So low muscle mass, 40 to 50% greater likelihood of death during the 10-year study period. Low muscle strength, 2 times greater risk of death. So that's one large study, 10,000 people. Now, to add another arrow to the quiver, a recent systematic review with meta-analysis. So this took several studies like the one I just mentioned, actually analyzed 38 studies involving over 2 million or nearly 2 million participants. I found, and I quote, higher levels of upper and lower body muscular strength are associated with a lower risk of mortality in adult population regardless of age and follow-up period. What does that mean? How much, you ask? How much? We're talking about a 30% reduced risk of death overall if you have more muscle mass and strength. And believe it or not, there's an important point, ladies. Women with higher levels of muscular strength had a 40% reduced rate of all-cause mortality. That means they were 40% less likely to die from any cause whatsoever. So hang on to that, ladies, because I'm going to come back to that in just a little bit. But 30 to 40% decrease in all-cause mortality with more strength, more muscle mass. On the other hand, low muscle, low strength, 40 to 50% more likelihood of death from all causes, and low muscular strength may be the worst of all, okay? I see Nikki's here. Good to see you here, Nikki. Thank you for being here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about, I talked about this longevity versus health span piece, and we don't just want to add more candles to the birthday cake, so to speak. We don't just want to have that longevity piece. We want to make sure that we are living well during those years, so we want to extend our health span. And this is another reason why I think the muscle mass piece is so, so critical. Plus, from a longevity standpoint, that's, for many of us, is pretty far out there. It's a little bit harder to grasp. And so in the near term, this gradual loss in muscle mass has a number of very far-reaching effects that we start to feel much earlier. Hey, Stephen, good to see you here. And I appreciate you coming back. Charlene is here. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for your persistence and your resilience as we get this going. So talking age-related muscle loss, we've talked about the rates of age-related muscle loss. We've talked about associations between muscle loss, strength, and death from all causes, or living longer. I want to talk a little bit more about the living well piece, the quality of life piece, because in the near term, even though this 8% is it's hard to perceive really when you're in the thick of it, because it happens so gradually, right? Like less than 1% of muscle mass lost each year, less than 2% of strength lost each year. Those are hard to really feel from year to year, but it adds up. And it's going to add up to a number of different things acutely, okay? So this loss of muscle mass not only dictates that loss in strength, that loss in power, but it's also going to affect your energy levels. I see James. Hey, James. It's going to affect your energy levels. I took a few notes here because I really want to make sure that I don't miss these points, okay? It can slow down our recovery, be that from exercise, injury, or just activities of daily life. You might find that, like, one day you were just a little more active around the house, and it might take 2 to 3 days to recover from that. Whereas before, you just bounce back and do it again. Part of that relates to this decrease in muscle mass. Other areas that are affected, we might be experiencing more injuries, and that could be due to loss in balance, loss in strength, the loss in recovery. Decreased independence over time. So this is a big one. So we tend to, as we lose our muscle mass, as we lose our strength, as we lose our power, our sphere of motion, our sphere of movement, our sphere of physical capacity starts to shrink. And that shrinks our independence, right? So that's a big one. Our confidence to move, in a variety of ways, our ability to move in a variety of ways is compromised as we lose our muscle mass, lose our strength, lose our power. We're more likely to get injured. We have less energy. We have less balance. We don't feel as confident when we're walking around. We're not going to run around with the kids as much because we just don't feel like we have the ability, or we literally don't have the ability. We have an increased risk of a variety of age-related conditions. So many of these age-related conditions, there is a component of low muscle mass here, right? I see Lila's here. Thank you so much, Lila, for being here. Guys, you guys have been amazing. You guys have been resilient. You've come back. I appreciate you so much. Know that this is going to be recorded. This is going to be posted. You can come back to it. We'll make sure that it's out there for you to come back to, okay? So thank you again for your understanding, for your patience, for your support, your encouragement. You guys have been awesome. If nothing else, what I've gotten out of this is that we have an amazing BioTRUST community. Thank you guys so much. Hey, Sai, good to see you here, my friend. Diminished quality of life. Another big one that I think is a little bit overlooked here with this is a slower metabolism. And I know that resonates with a lot of us here in our 40s and 50s who feel like things are just starting to slow down quite a bit. So muscle is a very metabolically expensive tissue. Burns a lot of calories. We know that, right? So as we lose muscle, naturally, our metabolism, our metabolic rate declines. In fact, this quote-unquote age-related metabolic decline that we tend to experience and see in the data is actually tightly related to age-related declines in muscle loss. So really the underpinning factor of age-related decreases in metabolism is age-related muscle loss. So if you have any aspirations to lose fat, lose weight, maintain your body weight as you get older, you need to focus on muscle mass. That's where it's at, okay? Yes, there's an activity component to that, but that activity component directly influences the muscle mass, okay? So, Lucy, good to see you here. Thank you so much for being here. Alan, thank you. Yes, appreciate you being here as well. And James, thank you guys so much. So the metabolism piece, like if I lost you at the physical capacity, diminished quality of life, energy, all that other stuff. I hope I caught you and reeled you back in with the metabolism, because I know that's a very important piece of the puzzle. I see Joanne is here. Thank you, Joanne, for being here. I appreciate you guys saying hello. Thank you so much. Okay, so the metabolism piece is an important one. So again, if you have aspirations of losing weight, maintaining your weight, looking good as you get older, you need to focus on the muscle mass piece. I want to dig into all those a little bit more, but the main tenet that I want to point out here is that age-related muscle loss slows us down. It does so gradually, but if you compare to 40 to when you're 30, 50, when you're 40, like you can probably see it. Like day to day, maybe not seeing those slowdowns, but start taking a look in that rear view mirror, like way far back there, 5 years, 10 years, and look how things have slowed down for you in a variety of ways, whether it's how much you feel capable of doing, how your recovery is, your energy levels, your body weight, things like that. Age-related muscle loss is likely not, if it's not the culprit, a major contributor to the slowing down. Okay, so age-related muscle loss slows us down. I want to point that out, right? And we've hit on a couple one of these things. Now, I just want to point out again that this is not all meant to be grim and be like, man, you're just destined to losing muscle. You're just destined to all these negative side effects that come with losing muscle. There's hope. And that's why I think that age-related muscle loss is the most critical issue of our time. One, because it has these far-reaching impacts. Two, because it happens so gradually that we tend to overlook it. But three is the hope, the great hope that we actually combat this. It's almost exclusively a lifestyle-related issue. Yes, there are age-related factors in play, that some of which we cannot totally eliminate. Like even if you did everything right, there's gonna be some decline in muscle mass over time. But we can flatten that curve out, guys. We can flatten the curve out. So if that curve looks something like this, and imagine that, we've got the y-axis here and the x-axis here. Imagine that curve looks like this, and that age-related muscle right around here reaches its peak when we're 25 to 30, under normal conditions comes down like this. Well, we can flatten that curve out, okay, and make a huge difference in terms of our functional capacity, in terms of our metabolism, in terms of our independence, our quality of life, our energy levels over time by, that's good. See, we gotta have some action like that, Funky Fresh. I love it. You gotta have some action like that. Wouldn't be interesting going live if you didn't have some action like that. So thank you. Ajay, great question. Belinda's here. She's fighting for her muscle. Love it. Joanne, thank you for being here. I'd love to hear your feedback on Metabol Boost. So what can we do to combat age-related muscle loss? Okay, really comes down to a couple major lifestyle factors. There's a number of things under these umbrellas, but it's going to come down to exercise and nutrition. Exercise and nutrition. And I'm an exercise guy, so I'm putting a lot of eggs in that basket. That's my jam, is exercise. Nutrition is really, really important. Okay, and we're gonna get into that too. Erica, hello, good to see you here. Lila, I'm gonna read Lila here because this is really important. From what you're saying, muscle loss is not reversible, but you can slow it. Can you increase muscle mass that you still have? So Lila, actually, depending on where you're at in your journey, you can add muscle mass as you get older. It's very difficult for a lot of people to add muscle mass, but you can reverse some of those losses with age. So that is not completely true. What I would say is that on average, over time, we probably can't completely mitigate the loss. We probably can't maintain what we have at 25 to 30 for the rest of our life. But what we can do is we can slow that rate of decline. And depending on where you're at, say if you didn't start exercising and paying attention to your nutrition to your 50, 60, we can bump that curve up even. Absolutely, you can get closer to that flattening of the line. There's no question about it with the right things. So what can we do to combat age-related muscle loss? All right, exercise, right? So when I say exercise, a lot of people are gonna start to think about cardio. Cardio is great. VO2 max, our cardiorespiratory fitness is another factor that's closely associated with longevity and health span. Awesome. Doesn't really do anything for our muscle mass, okay? Totally different story. So in order to mitigate muscle loss, in order to maintain muscle mass, in order to check all those boxes, we need to do some type of strength training. Again, it's all relative to where you're at. If you're the type of person who's been working out your whole life, you know you gotta lift weights. You gotta do some kind of strength training, some kind of resistance training with some kind of external load. Now, if you're the type of person who hasn't been doing any kind of resistance exercise, you can do body weight exercises. In fact, there's studies out of Brandon Egan's lab where people have done body weight exercises for 8 weeks and literally gained muscle. Gained as much muscle in 8 to 12 weeks as they had lost in years, okay? I'm not gonna say an exact number of years because I don't have the study data right in front of me, but I know Brandon Egan's lab have done some great studies on this age-related muscle loss, body weight exercises for folks who hadn't previously been exercising, gain muscle mass. And if you haven't been doing any kind of resistance training, any strength training with weights, you can gain muscle mass too. We have some great articles. I know Coach Sue and Coach Cristina have been adding some links here to the chat, which is awesome, with some links to some blog articles where we have some exercise routines and things like that. So head over there. Good question, John, about rowing. We can talk about that too. But resistance training is going to need to be a central piece. At least, I would say, at least twice a week, where you're focusing on all the major muscle groups, all the big compound movements, things like squatting and deadlifting, pushing and pulling. I would encourage you to work with a trainer if you're not familiar with how to do strength training, but that's got to be a piece of the puzzle for almost everyone. At least 2 to 3 times a week, some kind of strength training where you're working your full body. You can use lighter weights, you can use moderate weights, you can use heavier weights. Hello, Laura, good to see you here. I see you out there. That's strength training is going to be the number one piece of the puzzle. Okay, so I'm not going to get too thick in the weeds on what the program will look like, because it's going to, with exercise, it has to be very, very personal, very, very personally prescriptive. But kind of the general rule of thumb here is that we want to be lifting weights, doing some kind of resistance training. Again, if you have no background, body weight can do it, where you're doing things like squatting, picking things up off the floor, aka deadlifting, where you're pushing things, whether it's push-ups or pushing something overhead, pulling things towards you, some rowing, things like that, okay? Hello, Karen, good to see you. Thanks for being here. We're talking about age-related muscle loss and what we can do to combat it, all right? So thank you so much for being here, guys. There's information on the blog. We can check some things out there. I do encourage you to work with a trainer if you haven't already. So there's some ideas for the strength training. There's great books out there. We can follow up with some additional resources if we have specific questions on the training piece. All right. There was a question about, can you do like rowing or something like that to build muscle mass? Generally speaking, rowing is going to be more in that cardiovascular, cardiorespiratory bucket, meaning it's going to improve things like VO2 max, mitochondrial efficiency, mitochondrial function, which are all really, really important. Not going to do as much for muscle mass. Having said that, you can do some things like high intensity interval training where you get the intensity a bit higher, and it can have a stimulatory effect on building muscle. So there may be a preventive effect there on muscle loss with the appropriate high intensity interval training. I would still, if I had to bucket these things, I would bucket strength training, resistance training, weight training, whatever you want to call it, in the muscle mass side of things, right? Where that's going to be my tool to help combat age-related muscle loss and to help build muscle, build strength, build power. That's gonna be my tool for that job. That's gonna be the tool that I'm gonna pull out for that job. Meanwhile, something like, yeah, great, Brian, good call out here. People are coming in a little bit later, so after I finish this, I'll do a little bit of a recap here. Okay. Thanks for that, Brian. Appreciate that call out. I love my teammates, man. Teammates are awesome. They're always looking out for you. So on the other side, I think it might have been John who asked this question. Rowing, running, rucking, walking, elliptical. Enter your favorite cardio thing here. That's more for that tool. That tool is more for your VO2 max, your cardiorespiratory fitness, your mitochondrial health and function. I would focus those efforts there. Okay, so there's gonna be a little bit of carryover, right? Like if I do an interval or like some kind of strength training routine where I'm moving pretty quickly, like a circuit training type of thing, I'm probably gonna get some benefit on the cardiorespiratory system. So it's not mutually exclusive, but I've got a tool for this job and I've got a tool for this job. I need to get both jobs done, and that's what I'm trying to say there. Okay, so I see Eddie's here. Thank you so much. Hey, if you want to gain weight, you got to be lifting weights, right? That's a big thing, and absolutely want you to gain that muscle mass. No problem. Bonnie, thank you so much. Okay, so I know that we've had a lot of people come in because of my issues, technical issues. Haven't got to see this whole thing, right? So we're gonna publish this. It's gonna be on YouTube, so you can come back and check it out. But what we've talked about so far, age-related muscle loss, starts in our 30s. We lose about 8% of our muscle mass each decade around the age of 30, right? It's like not that perceptible, but it has both near and far-term effects, including loss in strength. So we lose strength at a rate 2 times as fast as we lose muscle. So while we're losing about 8% of our muscle each decade, we're losing about 15% of our strength. Even worse is we're losing power, which is a function of strength times speed, at a rate 2 to 3 times faster than we lose strength. So now we're losing strength, 30% each decade. All this adds up to affecting our energy levels, affecting our ability to do daily tasks, affecting our physical function, affect our physical capacity, affect our quality of life, affect our brain, our mindset, our emotional, being. We haven't even talked about that as this sphere closes in, how it affects our emotional being. This loss in muscle mass and strength affects our rate of injury. It affects our risk of likelihood for other age-related conditions. We talked about how muscle and strength are very closely correlated to our risk of all-cause mortality. We cited a 10-year study that showed that people with low muscle mass were 40 to 50% more likely to die during that study period. Low strength was 2 times more likely to die. On the other hand, we saw this meta-analysis looking at data for nearly 2 million people that showed that higher levels of muscle mass and muscle strength decrease the likelihood of death from all causes by 30 to 40%. We talked about how losing muscle mass can impact our metabolism, make us more likely to gain weight, make it harder to lose weight, all of these things we've talked about now. Hey Pat, how are you, my friend? It's good to see you. It's been a while. Hope that you're doing well. And we've talked about how the number one tool in our toolbox for combating this age-related muscle loss is exercise. We talked about how, there's this natural curve of muscle peaking 20 to 25 to 30 and how it tails off. We can level that curve out by using these tools. In many cases, we can actually gain muscle and help take us from that lower curve to the upper curve, improve our quality of life, improve our physical function, improve our body composition, improve our energy levels, improve our overall awesomeness, give us this health span. So a big major tenet here that we're talking about is increasing our longevity by increasing our muscle mass and strength, so the number of years in our life. But more important than just increasing the number of years in our life is increasing the life in our years. That's our health span. So that's what combating age-related muscle loss is going to do, is going to help put more, not just birthday candles on our birthday cake, but more life in our years. We're going to not just live longer, we're going to live longer, okay? Combating this age-related muscle loss, which slows us down. Now, the other tool in our toolbox is the nutritional side of it. Two aspects here, all right? So, first aspect, the number one thing you can do from a nutritional standpoint to combat age-related muscle loss is making sure you're getting enough protein. So protein provides the amino acids, the building blocks for building muscle and combating muscle loss. The general rule of thumb here is that we want to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.7 grams to 1 gram of protein per body weight per day. All right? So 0.7 grams to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day in order to combat age-related muscle loss. Hello, Stacy. Good to see you here. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you very much, taking time out of your day to join us, talking about age-related muscle loss. Make sure you check out the comments here because Coach Cristina is out there giving away coupons. Love it. Okay, so protein intake. If I am 200 pounds, which I am, that means I need somewhere between 140 grams and 200 grams of protein per day, right? In order to combat age-related muscle loss, right? So you can take your weight, your number, multiply it by 0.7 or 1.0, and that's your target for protein intake. There's a number of reasons why, but we do find that as we get older, we need more protein, actually more protein. Our bodies seem to be a little bit less sensitive to the amino acids, the protein intake, and so we need more in order to combat the age-related muscle loss, in order to maintain muscle, in order to build muscle, recover, things like that. So protein intake. This is going to be, where do you get protein, right? You get protein from animal products. You get protein from meat, chicken, fish, eggs, dairy. Those are going to be some of your best sources of protein. If you're a plant-based eater, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you. No, I'm just kidding. Protein powders become especially important for plant-based eaters because it is difficult to find concentrated sources of protein for plant-based eaters. If you are the type of vegetarian who consumes dairy, fish, eggs, those would be great choices. If not, completely plant-based, again, then I do think a plant-based protein powder is going to be a great option for you, such as BioTRUST low carb plant. But you can get protein from things like beans, nuts, seeds, and a variety of different grains. So you just have to be super careful if you're a plant-based eater to make sure you get enough protein. And also the amino acid profile doesn't tend to be as good in plants or as high quality. So you have to be very careful with that. Now, finally, on the nutritional side, another important piece of the puzzle is supplementation, okay? So supplementation with the right products, protein powders certainly being one of them, in order to get to that 0.7 to 1.0 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day is very important, okay? The other one that I can't go without endorsing here is our Ageless Muscle, BioTRUST Ageless Muscle, which comes in delicious fruit punch and now our unflavored version. Okay, so Ageless Muscle is a combination of HMB, creatine, betaine, and vitamin D. HMB is a hero in this product. So what HMB is a metabolite of the amino acid leucine. So leucine is known as this trigger to help stimulate muscle protein synthesis, to tell the muscles to turn on the muscle building machinery, okay? So HMB is kind of the downstream metabolite that's very helpful in that process. HMB also has this very cool function of stopping protein breakdown, okay? So as we get older, one of the things that contributes mechanistically to this decrease in muscle mass is a reduced, a decrease in muscle protein synthesis and an increase in protein breakdown. You add those two things together, it's a net loss in muscle mass, okay? So HMB combats both of those issues, right? It's gonna stimulate muscle protein synthesis and it's going to put the brakes on protein breakdown. So HMB does a fabulous job of that. Creatine is probably one of the most well researched, if not the most well researched, performance enhancing supplements of our time. It's going to help with performance, strength, power, but also help with muscle mass. Okay, so creatine is going to help first of all, fuel the activities that we do, but also help bring water into the muscles to help hydrate them, to help stimulate that muscle protein synthesis to a greater extent as well. Betaine has similar types of functions as well. Okay, so ageless muscle is a huge tool in the toolbox for combating age-related muscle loss. So there's great studies on HMB, on creatine, on building muscle, on maintaining muscle, and so on. The question here was, is it come in a vegan form? And actually, you'd be fine if you're vegan to consume, well, the vitamin D is from sheep's wool. So that would be still a vegetarian formula, but not completely vegan. So that would be something to consider, okay? But I do want to get into questions a little bit here on ageless muscle, because I know that many people have had questions. But those are our main tools in the toolbox, right? Exercise, nutrition. From a nutrition standpoint, we have diet, which is protein. That's the focus there. And then we have supplementation. So there's a number of supplements that can help. And let me just check that box one more time. So ageless muscle is one of the strongest tools that we have in our toolbox, because HMB is combating both. It's helping stimulate muscle protein synthesis, helping slow protein breakdown. Creatine, betaine are hydrating the cells. They're helping with energy production, and they are pulling water in to help stimulate that muscle protein synthesis from a different mechanistic standpoint. So again, many studies on HMB, 50 clinical studies on HMB, something to that effect, showing its muscle building, muscle preserving effects. There was a year-long study funded by the NIH recently that showed that it not only can enhance, HMB can not only enhance the effects of exercise, but also can be used in the absence of exercise to help maintain or build muscle. And again, I do want to point out that we're using a branded version of HMB in this product called MyHMB, which is the one that's been studied. And then creatine is in this formula, betaine, vitamin D. Additional to those, protein supplement, very important. Whether it's BioTRUST Low Carb Light, BioTRUST Low Carb, BioTRUST Low Carb Plant, all of those are going to be important to help get that protein intake up to that 0.7 to 1.0 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day. Another one that's super overlooked, omega-3s. So omega krill would be another supplement in your arsenal in order to help maintain muscle mass. There's a number of theories out there on why omega-3s help here, but we see that folks with healthier omega-3 indexes, people who supplement with omega-3s, maintain or even build muscle, particularly when combined with exercise. Probably has something to do with those omega-3s being incorporated in the cell membranes, allowing those cells to be more receptive to the amino acids. That's one of a number of different explanations. That seems pretty rational to me. And bottom line is, take your omega-3s, okay? Another supplement that comes to mind is collagen protein. Collagen protein, different amino acids, does seem to be helpful in not just building muscle, but probably helping the tissues recover from exercise. So just a few things, okay? And while there's vitamin D in ageless muscle, I would probably use something like Soul Joy as well, which is another higher potency vitamin D with vitamin K, because there's strong associations between levels of vitamin D and muscle mass. And so you may need a little bit more vitamin D. It kind of depends on where you are at in terms of your vitamin D levels. Let's see. Oh, Brian, question. So thank you guys for bringing this up. So I know we're talking questions now. Let's see. Was there a question about fasting? I'm sure there was. Was there a question about fasting? Let's see. Maybe we could repeat the question just so we have it, because I know that's a common one. I'm going back here. I had it in my head, but I lost it. So let's see. Yeah, if someone wants to repeat the question about fasting, does it break a fast? Thank you, Julie. Good to see you here, Julie. So, does Ageless Muscle break a fast? So here's my question: is what is a fast? That's probably like a little too philosophical for some people, but the better question is probably, what is the purpose of the fast? Are you using daily time restricted feeding or daily intermittent fasting as a tool for weight management or weight reduction? If the answer is yes, then the answer is it doesn't matter if Ageless Muscle breaks a fast or not. Okay? Here's what I mean by that. If you're using fasting as a tool for weight reduction, what you're trying to do is limit the number of calories that you consume by not necessarily impacting what you eat or how much you eat, by impacting when you eat. Does that make sense? So by taking something like Ageless Muscle, you're not affecting the when too much. You're actually, by affecting the when, by changing the when of time restricted feeding, you ultimately impact the how much. Okay? Ageless Muscle is not going to have any negative impact on that. So all that being said, if we're talking about a daily intermittent fasting protocol, such as time restricted feeding, in order to help lose fat, to help maintain body weight, it's perfectly fine to use Ageless Muscle during the fasting period. I don't think there's any negative effects whatsoever. In fact, I would probably recommend it for that purpose in many cases. Now, if you are doing a 3, 5, 7-day fast, water fast, where your focus is, let's say, on autophagy, I wouldn't use Ageless Muscle during that period of time, because what you're telling your body is that you want to send the signals of deprivation. You don't want to have amino acids present, because amino acids actually tell your body that it's in a building mode. You are trying to get to this point where this AMPK is really high, this mTOR is really low, and autophagy can do its thing, okay? So, again, to repeat, does Ageless Muscle break a fast? Technically, anything besides water, you can think of that simple. Anything besides water breaks a fast. But if we're talking about daily time-restricted feeding, daily intermittent fasting for the purpose of weight loss, weight management, so on, it doesn't matter. Take Ageless Muscle during the fast. Don't worry about it. Not a big deal. If you're talking about longer fasts for a different purpose, I would probably, in that case, not use anything besides water. We'll put it. That's how I look at it. Okay, so that's a great question. Let's see, something else. Oh, Kia says, is there any advantage to taking Ageless Muscle before lifting weights? Great question, Kia. So, yes, it does seem to be highly beneficial to take Ageless Muscle, i.e. HMB and or creatine, sometime, one dose, which I'll get to in just a second, around your workout time. I've talked to the researchers who have investigated the HMB, the MyHMB product, and they have suggested that based on their research, they think one of the best times to take it is before exercise. And the reason for that is because of the effects that MyHMB has on muscle protein breakdown. So mitigating some of the muscle protein breakdown by taking it before exercise. From a creatine standpoint, we've seen creatine taken at whatever time. We've seen creatine taken after exercise. We've seen creatine taken before exercise. And there's marginal differences in terms of its effectiveness when taken at different times. If anything, it seems like taking it after exercise might be slightly more helpful, but not at the expense that I would gear my whole day around it. So my suggestion, which is actually another one of the questions that we got, what's the best way to use Ageless Muscle, is to take 2 servings per day. For best case scenario, take 2 servings of Ageless Muscle per day. Ideally, those are spread out a little bit throughout the day, say 6 to 10 hours apart, ideally. with one of those servings coming sometime around the workout window. To my earlier point, if you can get it in before exercise, that may have additional benefits, okay? Good question, Barbara, and actually leads me to the next piece. Okay, so to kind of sum up there, Ageless Muscle, ideally we're using it twice a day, spread a little bit apart. This is based on the half-life of HMB, and ideally one of those servings taken around exercise time, okay? Is it okay to mix Ageless Muscle with other products? Absolutely, no problem at all. In fact, one of the best uses of the HMB is when it combined with protein powder. So when it's combined with something like BioTRUST Low Carb, BioTRUST Low Carb Plant, Ageless Multi-Collagen, BioTRUST Low Carb Light, what HMB can also do is help your body utilize protein, i.e. amino acids, more efficiently. So again, remember, HMB, this downstream metabolite of the amino acid leucine, is going to help turn on the muscle building machinery, i.e. muscle protein synthesis, which basically requires all those amino acids from protein in order to actually build muscle, okay? So adding your unflavored Ageless Muscle to your favorite flavor of BioTRUST Low Carb Plant is a really smart idea. And you can certainly add Ageless Muscle to our collagen powder. You can add it to our protein powder. You can add it to greens, Metabo greens if you wanted to. A great combination that many people like is the Fruit Punch Ageless Multi-Collagen, or excuse me, Fruit Punch Ageless Muscle with Eternal Reds, a nice little combo. Some people add the Fruit Punch Ageless Multi-Collagen to that cocktail as well. Okay, so just a few use cases I wanted to get into there. Another question that I wanted to come back to, and gosh, there's so many different, can it be taken with Keto Elevate? Of course, absolutely. That sounds like a really interesting combo, Teresa, that I hadn't tried before. But I think that's a really good question. Another question, Mama G, does Ageless Muscle cause water retention? Great question. And that was a question that I had on my list here. I would expect there to be some quote-unquote water retention with something like Ageless Muscle. And let me unpack that, okay? Because the initial thought is that is going to be a bad thing. But how that works is this. So creatine and betaine to some extent are osmolytes. That's just a fancy word for meaning that they draw water in, okay? So those nutrients, creatine, betaine, get drawn into the muscle cell, inside the muscle cell. And through this property of osmolarity, it pulls water into the muscle cell. So it makes a muscle cell more hydrated. So from a scale perspective, we might see an increase in body weight with something like Ageless Muscle. Moderate, I'm not talking about anything crazy, but maybe like a pound or so, maybe 2. Something like that. That's an increase in lean body mass. Not necessarily muscle mass, but lean body mass. It's certainly not fat mass. But that water retention means that your muscle cells are more hydrated. It means that they're going to work more effectively, efficiently, and it's going to mean that they're stronger and that they recover better, things like that, okay? So the water retention that we get from something like creatine, betaine is actually expected, and it's actually a benefit of those osmolytes, okay? So it's a good thing. Jeanette, good question. Can you take Ageless Muscle even if you don't work out much? Short answer, going back, I have to put out the disclaimer. I told you that I'm an exercise guy. Put out the disclaimer that our number one tool in the toolbox for combating age-related muscle loss is exercise. So just got to put out that disclaimer. But the good news is Ageless Muscle can still work and work very well in the absence of exercise when it comes to combating age-related muscle loss. We see this, for example, in that 12-month study, a full year study, NIH-funded study on MyHMB, which is in Ageless Muscle. When people used MyHMB twice a day, 3 grams, same amount in Ageless Muscle, twice a day, without exercise, they gained strength. They gained strength and muscle, even without exercise. And these, we're talking about people in their 60s and 70s who would normally be declining. So they combat that age-related muscle loss just by taking it. So it is beneficial. I would say that I've seen better results when people take it with exercise. So it's going to enhance the effects of exercise, but also can be taken without exercise. All right. Let's see. Another question that I wanted to come back to, and I know we've been going for like an hour here, so if you have some more questions, we'll try to get to them. I know Coach Cristina is hustling. Thank you so much, Coach Cristina, for just crushing it here. Let's give Coach Cristina a round of applause here. And I think Coach Sue might be here too, helping out. Thank you, Coach Sue. But please give Coach Cristina some hearts, some thumbs up, some clapping here, because she's been crushing it in the comments. She's been keeping an eye on everyone's questions, even when I haven't been too focused on what I had to say. But Coach Cristina has been tremendously helpful. Thank you so much, Cristina. So make sure that you guys check out the comments here. She's dropping a ton of knowledge there. Oh my gosh, yeah. Throw it up there for her. Please, please throw it up there for her. Another question I wanted to come back to. We hear this all the time, and I'm thankful that I haven't heard it today. At least I don't think I've seen it. Is ageless muscle only for men? Can women use it also? Heck yes, women can use it also. And I just want to belabor this point that age-related muscle loss knows no gender boundaries. It affects men and women equally, and there's probably some data out there to suggest that it affects women to a greater extent, and I'll unpack that just a little bit. From an absolute perspective, age-related muscle loss is going to affect men more because they generally go into that period of age-related muscle decline with more muscle mass. So if you have more, you're going to lose more over time. But if you have more, it's like having more savings in the bank. You have more of a buffer room. So if you're a woman going into that period and you don't have as much to lose, there is a greater likelihood that you're going to feel the effects of that, okay? And below that loss in muscle mass, you have this loss in bone strength with age with women, okay? And so if I'm losing my muscle and I'm losing my strength and I'm losing my balance and I'm losing all those things, and I become more likely to fall or more likely to get injured, more likely to break a bone, that's going to affect a woman severely, okay? And that's going to affect a woman very much. And so I cannot overstate how important I think age-related muscle loss is to women's health as they get older. And it becomes increasingly harder for women to build and maintain muscle because of the hormonal shifts over time. It's not impossible. You can do it. Absolutely. There's no question about it. But you have to use those tools in your toolbox. You have to use the exercise. You have to use the nutrition. You have to use the supplements. But I just want to beat that drum really, really loudly that I think that ageless muscle is absolutely for men and women. And age-related muscle loss affects women just as equally, if not more so, than men. It might start a little bit later in women than men. For men, it might start a little bit like in the 30s, and women maybe closer to 40. But again, it's going to impact women just as much, if not more, as that physical function, as that sphere of function, physical capacity starts to shrink. We want to combat that, okay? And we want to maintain our health, our physical function, our stability, our balance, all those things as we get older, okay? All right. Did we have any other questions? I'm sure there were a ton that I missed here. I'm so sorry. But if there's any others that we want to try to sneak in here, maybe we can catch another one or two questions here. It's funny, someone just said I'm at your door and there was a knock on the door. It's pretty funny. I don't know how you did that, but you got me. So make sure that you check out the comments from Coach Cristina. She's got a coupon code in the chat that you can use. I think it was for 50% off. And there's links to buy. So make sure that you check that out. Let's see if we have any other last questions that want to answer. Guys, thank you so much for being here. You guys were amazing. We had some technical difficulties. We had trouble getting started originally. We had trouble with the audio, but we stuck with it. We stuck with it. And here we are. We made it. This is going to be published. We're going to publish this and we are going to make sure that you get all this good stuff back. Hey, Brian, good to see you, buddy. Make sure that you can all come back to YouTube and you can check this video out. It's an hour, so there's a lot. Guys, one thing I didn't mention, that if you have questions that we didn't get to, you can always email us. You can email us at coaches@biotrust.com. So if you didn't get your question answered, or if you weren't involved in the chat, then email us at coaches@biotrust.com. Literally, Coach Cristina just said the same thing at the same time, even though I didn't see it. She crushed it. Again, Coach Cristina, you're the best. You're awesome. Our BioTRUST community is amazing. You guys were awesome. Make sure you check out the chat for the coupon code, 50% off Ageless Muscle. And if you're not using it already, start using it. Again, if you guys didn't get your questions answered, make sure you email us at coaches@biotrust.com, and we'll take care of you. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you very much thank you, Brian. Absolutely great customer service. We got it all here. Thank you guys all for being here. We appreciate you very much. You can also go over to our VIP community, our Facebook community, and you can get questions answered there. You can interact with many of the amazing people who are here. That's at biotrust.com/VIP, or Coach Cristina put the link in the chat. So thank you guys so much for being here. We'll do it again, and we'll do it again, hopefully without a hiccup. But again, thank you guys for being here. You were awesome. Hope you got some value out of this. And please let us know if you have feedback or if you have any more questions, and we'll do it again. All right. Thank you guys. Take care.